BeatsNet Podcast, sponsored in part by James Safety Services, OCR Buddy, and supported by the fitness community. Here we discuss all things fitness related, running, rucking, mental health and preparedness, and of course, obstacle course racing. Welcome to the BeatsNet.
Hey everybody, it's Mike with BeatsNet here, and on this episode I got with me Dr. Jenn. Now, Jen, you've been on the show once before, but let the listeners know that may not have heard that episode, know who you are real quick.
Yep, absolutely. So just like a little bit about myself. I've been in the field of trauma and addiction for over 2.5 decades. And over the past 5 years, I've shifted into more work on the wellness side instead of the therapy side. So really helping people build their capacity through their body, their mind, their heart connections with other people, and, kind of finding their sense of like who they are through exercise, movement, OCR, of course, which is, part of what we're going to be talking about today. Through yoga, fitness, just really being able to build their capacity to become stronger and more connected with themselves, rather than just focusing on the things that might not be going so well, which is kind of the traditional way of healing, right? Is like, what's wrong? And now you have to fix something. Instead of you're awesome as you are, you have the power in yourself to be able to rebuild and get stronger through connection and, movement and working with others.
Well, which is amazing. I mean, it goes against the common thought now, but not the common thought, 100 years ago. So I do a lot of like history stuff and, conspiracy stuff, kind of, but not really conspiracy. A lot of what I do is more like history, like this is what happened, these are beliefs that people had, and people forget that most of the science that we have now on the pills, we had the same diseases, a lot of the same illnesses 100 years ago without all of these pills. Was the mortality rate somewhat higher? Maybe in some ways. Yes, it depends on how you look at the statistics. It can kind of go either way. But just being active, people lived for long periods. People think that, oh, everyone died in their 40s. No. The reason why the death rate was such, the average age of life was more because of infant mortality really skewed the numbers. People lived into their 80s, 90s, 100s.
Absolutely.
Forever. Because they ate better. They exercised, they moved.
Yeah.
And we've all felt that, where we've gone out, for me, when I was 310 pounds, I felt horrible every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was depressed. I was everything. And all of a sudden I started running and dropped to 180. I could move. I felt better.
Yeah. So when I was 40 years old, I was 225 pounds. And I think I might have mentioned this last time I was on, but that's when I started my OCR journey. I just said, you know what? I need to get healthy. I need to start putting into practice what I'm kind of helping others with. And at that time, I was still doing clinical work. So it was a lot of sitting on the couch, talking the talk, but not walking the walk. And once I started really taking care of my own health and saw that rather than, sitting and talking about things or, just journaling or doing some of the techniques I had been trained to do, that walking, starting to run, doing our favorite burpees, right? Climbing over things, meeting new people, hearing a story, right? And then that person like runs off and then you meet someone else, that was changing my life. And it was shifting my depression and my anxiety and helping me feel fulfilled. And, I really started looking more at, I had been doing yoga for a long time off and on, and I had been a yoga teacher, but I really started looking at trauma-informed weightlifting, trauma-informed exercise kind of modalities. And as you were talking about, how science, right, 100 years ago used to use more of this, 5,000 years ago is when, right, yoga and Ayurveda was, created or being practiced in Eastern countries. And it was all about movement, all about breathing, about connecting to yourself, the world around you, other people, right? Using natural resources, foods, being overall holistically healthy. And they had, like you were saying, like much less rates of illness than we have today. I mean, you go into a school now, into a classroom, and 90% of the kids are diagnosed with something, right? They're
Yeah.
on medication. They're not playing, in the park like they used to. They're becoming sedentary. They're overweight. They're on screens all the time. And so it's time, I felt it's time to get back into doing what our bodies naturally want to do, right? Move. We want to
Hmm.
connect with each other. We want to be healthy. We want to be fulfilled. We want excitement. Our nervous system runs on that. And so putting my clinical knowledge together with what I love to do really has helped me to be able to help transform people's lives.
Which is amazing because I mean, we are not. We know this. I mean, if you look at science, you look at everything else, we as human beings are not meant to be sedentary and not meant to eat half the
Mhm.
stuff that we put in our bodies.
Exactly.
We're meant to move. We're
Mhm.
meant to be social creatures,
Yeah.
and there's too much now where you see a lot of people in 2020, I think, really, really like multiplied this, where people are afraid to go out. So they sit at home on their computer, on their video games, on their screens,
Hmm.
and they're
Right.
not socializing and
Hmm.
they're not moving.
Right.
And the human body can't sustain that.
Right.
And that's
Absolutely.
when we start seeing the illnesses. We start seeing, a spike in diabetes. We start seeing a spike in obesity. We start seeing a spike in all of these things
Hmm.
that, everyone's, why is this happening? Because we're sedentary. Because a lot of the food that we eat in the United States is banned
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
every other country.
Hmm.
Not just
Absolutely.
one or two, like
Right.
all of them.
Hmm. Absolutely. Hmm. And and it's funny that you say that too, right? Even, other countries, when they're looking at mental illness and mental wellness, they're encouraging people to go to yoga, to try
Hmm.
meditation, to move before putting people on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications. And your mental health is a real concern, right? The more that we isolate, the more that we're separate from other people, the more we're not using our bodies, depression sets in, anxiety sets in, fear sets in, all
Hmm.
of these things that are challenges for so many people. And, one of the biggest things for mental wellness is connection. If you feel safe with other people, right, you're using your body, your nervous system starts to rewire itself, you can heal yourself through connection and movement. And
Yes.
there's so much neuroscience that backs this. And we kind of look at it like it's something that's like new wave, right? When in
Hmm.
reality, like you said, it's been being done for hundreds, thousands of years. People have been healing in this way.
That's what amazes me when all the time people see some of these things and they're like, the home remedies, all that kind of stuff. They're like, oh, new age medicine. It's like, no, 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 no. This is old age medicine.
Hmm.
What you're
Yep.
doing is new age. Because it
Hmm.
seems like that is one thing mentioned in our country, especially America. Like someone's like, hey, I'm feeling a little bit down. I mean, you go to the doctor now and they immediately every time ask you, how do you feel? Have you thought about this?
Hmm.
Have you blah, blah, blah? And they
Yeah.
have that questionnaire, which I don't know anybody who can answer those questions truthfully without sounding like they need medication,
Right. Right.
you
Hmm.
know? And
Yeah.
then their immediate action, thing is, oh, here's some Xanax, here's this,
Mhm.
here's
Right.
whatever,
Hmm.
instead of saying, hey, why don't we try this? Let's
Right.
have you go to, this, go to a stair class, go to this, go join the gym, go with
Yep.
a friend. And then the endorphins from that,
Hmm.
plus
Absolutely.
people. I mean, that's one thing when I first moved down to Texas, I was starting to have issues, stuff like that. I got into a rocking group and it changed like my whole perspective because now I had a tribe,
Yeah. Yeah. You have community.
for lack of a better
Absolutely.
word, a tribe, a community. I have people
Yep. Yep.
that I can talk to and I interact with. And
Mhm.
plus, I'm moving and I'm, carrying heavy things and
Right.
doing crazy workouts. And
Mhm. And out in nature, right? You're
yes.
outside doing this stuff, right?
Hmm.
So you're breathing in the fresh air, you're getting all of this multisensory input, which is healing in so many ways because there's different colors, smells, right? Textures under your feet when you're on the grass or on rocks or on a road, right? So it's like all of this input is helping to rewire us. And then when you're connected to other people, you're doing it, like you said, with a tribe and your community, you feel safe. you feel supported, you feel that you have someone to lean into, and all of that is so healing. And we go away, right? We put someone, by themselves, go journal by yourself in your room, right? Or, sit and do. Now, I mean, so many sessions are virtual, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's awesome that we could do stuff like this, right? You're in
Hmm.
Texas, I'm in Connecticut, we're talking right now, we can see each other, but our lives have turned into this in so many ways, where you see your doctor on a computer now. Like, they're
Hmm.
not even like face to face with you in a room anymore. It's just
No.
all of that isolation is making things so much worse for us. And like you said, we're not moving, right? We can sit
No.
on a couch, we could sit in a chair and do everything. And getting off the couch, right? I mean, this is a mission for so many, right? More Heart Than Scars is talking about getting off the couch. Spartan's talking about getting off the couch. Like, we need to get people connected, and our couch has become our safety zone.
Hmm. It has. And I mean, there's so many things you can do now. I mean, I even do it. I have, one of my forms of workout is VR.
Hmm.
I have a
Yeah.
VR headset and I do, almost daily. I'll do half an hour to 45 minutes of a, boxing or a hit workout on my VR headset.
Mhm.
But I mean, at least then I'm moving, I'm doing stuff, I'm getting the endorphins going, in a way that it is possible for me. But at the same time, would I rather be out there with,
Hmm.
my friends doing whatever? Yes. But I mean, we got used to over COVID, I think it really was, where we got used to this.
Hmm. Right.
I have another podcast that I've done with, two different ones that I do with people that we used to do sitting next to each other.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I think in the last 3 years, we've done it that way twice on each one.
Hmm.
Because, once COVID started, it became difficult. Plus, one of the guys lives in San Antonio now and everything else. And I live in Texas and the other one's in, Washington still. But I mean, this made it so we can continue doing it. But at the same time, like you said, there's none of that interaction. And I think one of the things people forget too, people need human touch.
Absolutely. Hmm.
you
Absolutely.
know, and not in a sexual or sensual or anything way, just the a hug.
Yep.
I have friends at all time. We'll message each other every once in a while, just random, like, "Hey, love you,"
Hmm.
just to
Yep.
like, "Hey, I'm thinking of you, and I love you," and that's amazing, because
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's like it almost seems to be like at the worst time too, where the person's having a horrible time. They're just like, ugh, and then all of
Yep.
a sudden they get that text that just says, "Love you," nothing else, just
Yep. Hmm.
and it
Yeah.
changes everything. But what
Hmm.
make that 100 times better is a hug with it.
Absolutely.
But which we can't always do. But I mean, it's.
But it feels good that way,
Hmm.
right? Even like, a smile, a little emoji like of a heart or a silly face, right, from a
Hmm.
friend. It does. It changes our neurochemistry, right? It brings
Hmm.
up oxytocin, right? Feelings of love and connection, and a physical, right? Physical touch is so important. And I think that's one of the things that I've been, kind of researching with this book that I'm trying to finish, and it will eventually be finished. But like, we get human touch in OCR, right? Like,
Hmm.
how many random people have touched your foot, touched your leg, touched your butt, touched your hand, like to boost you over a wall or grab you and pull you over something? So that's that safety and that touch and that human connection in a very kind of safe, controlled environment, right? Like, there's
Hmm.
a, hey, do you want a hand? Yeah, okay, I'm gonna grab you, and boom. Now you're up and over, and you're just so pumped up, right? For achieving that obstacle with support. So, OCR kind of adds all of those pieces in it, which is, a lot of times people don't think about it in that way, but we have safe, healthy touch. We have the connection, the camaraderie, we have the
Hmm.
movement, we have nature, we have getting into dirt, which boosts up serotonin. Like, there's all of these amazing things that really can heal our mental, challenges that we have, whether it's PTSD or anxiety or depression. It's kind of all wrapped into one.
Hmm. It is, and I think it's one of those things. I mean, I think my generation, I'm the tail end of Gen X. You know, we were the last generation to really get that, like, just dirt, everything else, whatever. I mean, everyone always talks about how we were the latchkey kids, because literally, I can remember as a kid, like, we ate breakfast, we went
Yeah.
outside, and then
Yeah.
people are like, "Oh, why didn't you come back in the house?" Because usually they lock the door.
Hmm. Yep.
They're
Until the
like,
street lights went
"Yep,
on and you went home for dinner.
when the street lights come on, come home for dinner. What
Yep.
if you need something to drink? Drink out of the fire hose."
Yeah.
I mean, you just,
Yep.
but we had that, and I think in a lot of ways, it made us like our just different in a way because we had to survive on our own, but we're
Right.
also out there in the dirt. We were out there in, so we really want this. Our bodies want this because they remember it. And I
Absolutely.
think
Gives
that's
it
one of
that
the
muscle
hard,
memory. Yeah.
and I think that's the hard part for the next generations because their bodies don't remember this.
Right. Hmm. Right. And it's new for them, right? It's new, even if they, like I think of my son who's 16, who's done quite a few Spartans with me
Hmm.
with Team Oscar Mike. And, it's like I raised my kids, right, to try to be outside and stuff. But COVID shifted all of that. I mean, he went through
Did.
middle school, right, online, which is like
Hmm.
a pivotal time in development. And he loves being out on the course, and he loves working with people, he loves working with athletes, he loves doing the obstacles. And when he's not on the course, he's in his room, on his TV, on his video games, living life through, right, virtual
Hmm.
means. It's like he has two different worlds, right, when he comes out on the course and when he is at home. And he says, like, he's asked his friends to come and check it out, and they're like, why would we want to do that? And he's like, because it's awesome. But it's like it's totally a totally different experience.
It is. I got lucky. My son, he did for like three or 4 years. He did a trifecta with me every year.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because it used to be in Seattle where they did like I think it was the super in the sprint or the super in April and then did the super in the sprint
Yep.
in
Hmm.
October. So he would come out and do them all with me. Um, but then it was COVID pretty much. Once
Hmm.
COVID, we didn't race all through COVID, and then his COVID was his senior year.
Hmm.
So, and I mean, it just shut down his senior year. He lost out on prom. He lost out on everything.
Hmm.
He only walked because I was like, please, I just
Yeah.
want to see it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just want, I
I
just
gotta
want,
get that. Yeah. I want to see
I
it.
just,
Yeah.
I want this. I do it for me. I know you don't care, but do it for me, you know, because it was weird the way they did it, like one kid at a time
Hmm.
walked across the stage. So it was very odd, but it really changed kind of his mindset because he got away from that coming outside, working with me, training with me, doing everything else because
Yeah.
all the workouts, because for a long time, the
Hmm.
BSOCR, the South End workouts were at my house
Yeah.
because I had like 3 acres. So they were at my house. And then all of a sudden we couldn't do it. When we did do it, people got all freaked out, even though it's like, hey, we would 6 feet apart, all of us, we set everything up. There was
Right.
video and pictures, like we were doing all of our mats were 6 feet apart. But it's
Mhm.
still people like, oh, and it's like,
Right.
it became really rough trying
Yeah.
to, because I'm a social person. I love being around people. And then all of a sudden they're like,
Yeah.
oh, you can't.
Hmm.
And I'm
Right.
like, oh, well, this doesn't work.
Right. And
Yeah.
how awful was that, right? For those of us, I mean, for some people who aren't as social, right? They still had challenges with
Hmm.
COVID. But for those of us who did a lot of community things, who were very social, it really shifted our way of interacting with people. And it's been hard to get that back for so many of us. We've been, struggling with, challenges, related to our own well-being, self-confidence, stress levels because of what has happened over the past few years with isolation and just the world shifting.
Hmm.
And I think that it's time, there's a lot of movement, but when you take several years of living in your house, right, it's like your body, like you said, it's still there, there's still that muscle memory there, but that will, that motivation, right, that grit, that mental toughness, the mindset, all of that has shifted into, well, do I really have to? It's cold out today, I don't want to run. Like, I remember I used to exercise outside no matter what the weather, right? And
Yep.
then, like, during COVID, I got used to doing some things. I did some stuff on VR. I would get together with a friend and we would do like sword fighting and stuff together. And now I'm like, oh, the temperature's not perfect. Do I want to run today? That's not me, but like this time
No.
has shifted me, and it's like turning it back around to find that inner self again, like that drive again. The
And it's
love
tough.
for it. Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
for me, because during COVID, I got so used to, because before I only worked out with people. I never did anything on my own. It was just whatever. During
Hmm.
COVID, there was nobody to work out with. So, and I had all this time because I was, I'm a safety person and I taught classes. All my classes moved to Zoom.
Hmm.
And so a class that would normally take 2 or 3 hours was really taking about an hour and a half. And then I had time between classes that I didn't have to drive anymore. So it
Mm,
was like, what am I going to do? So there's a park across the street. I'd go walk for an hour. Then I was jogging for an hour. Then I'd run for an hour. And then I
yeah.
got so used to, I set up my garage as a gym
Hmm.
and made an entire gym away from everybody and got
Yeah.
so used to even now. I mean, I'll go do and I go out with the rucking group, but then like the job, the contract that I have that's just ending, um, I was working 6 10s. So I
Hmm.
was working every Saturday, and that's when the wrecking group got together. So from June to December, I went out with the wrecking group once because I was
Hmm.
working every Saturday and I couldn't, so
Yeah.
I missed out on that. And then I got used to, I set up my garage where I've got a huge projector with like a 120-inch screen where I can watch TV while I ride my bike on the trainer.
Mhm. Yep.
So I'll sit
Hmm.
in there and just ride the bike. I did it last night for 2 hours.
Right. Hmm.
Sat and rode
Yeah.
the bike and watched Farscape.
Hmm. And that's the thing. Like when we have, I'm working weekends now, which is absolutely awful. It started
Hmm.
last February, so like that was right my entire race season. I think I got to a half a dozen races, including like, and that's for 2 days, right? So like 3 race weekends maybe. And I made the commitment this year. I told my family, told Rob, like my partner, I was like, look, I was like, my personal time off, my PTO has to be races. I have to get to a race once a month, even if it's something around here and it
Hmm.
can't be going out. So I just like, I'm super excited. I'm going to be going down to Atlanta with More Heart Than Scars in March. So like, that's my first Spartan for the week, or for the season. And, it's just like like my mental health tanked. I gained 15 pounds this year, right? Because I wasn't
Hmm.
going out with my people, right? And I wasn't engaging in the activities that keep my whole self going, right? My mind, not just my physical stuff, right? My heart, my connections with people. There's people I haven't seen in a long time. And I think that, it's like how we shift our routines and our commitments to know that this is so good for us, right? And this helps us with these other things.
It does, and I mean, it's one of those things. It's like I said, being able to go out with the wrecking club and everything else for so
Hmm.
long. When I did finally get to go out and do stuff with them again, it felt so good to be out with people. I did get to go out with the team a couple of times, not as much as I wanted to, but
Hmm.
then it's like like right now, I finally got into a rhythm for training, and
Hmm.
now I've got to go live in a hotel for a month.
Right. Right.
So then
Hmm.
it's like, okay, figuring out how do I do this? How do I make sure that my diet doesn't tank? I'm
Hmm.
not eating out every night. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I've got an Ironman in 2 months.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
So I got a lot of training that I need to do, you
Yep.
know. So luckily the hotel has a gym,
Hmm.
but there's a pool, but it's like 10 feet across. So I think I
Yeah, so
found
you got to find some sort of better lap pool somewhere around there.
I found a couple that aren't too far away, but I don't know if it's gonna be like right now I'm swimming 3 times a week.
Yeah. Oh
On my
wow.
way to work, there's a gym literally like 5 minutes from my office. I leave an hour early. I stop
Yeah.
and get about half an hour to 40 minutes of swimming 3 times a week. So
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. But I've also found ways using, different sites that talk about ways of using the resistance bands and stuff like
Yes.
that you can work the same muscles, as swimming. So I might be doing a lot of that and then just really focusing on the bike and the
Hmm.
run. Because the one
Yeah.
thing is most people, anyone who's ever done a triathlon, one thing you'll figure out really quick, at least for me and most people I know, pretty much the mindset is survive the swim. You just have
Hmm.
to make it
Yeah.
and then crush the bike because
Hmm.
that's where you save all the time.
Yeah.
If you want to make up time, it's always going to be in the bike and the run. The swim, at best, you're going to make up 20 minutes,
Hmm. Yeah.
you know,
So
but
that's good. That's good advice because I'm actually doing my first Olympic distance triathlon in July. So that's good advice. I was a swimmer in high school
oh,
and
then you'll
beginning of
be,
college, but I don't like running. I
yeah.
like rucking. I like walking fast. Right? Like I'm not a runner, so that's more of what I'm nervous about.
The one thing I've told everyone, and this is the one thing that I figured out doing couple, because I'll be honest, I failed two Ironmans, um, because of my own issues. But the swim, every swim I've done, I've always been like 10 minutes from the cutoff,
Hmm.
which, whatever, I made it before the cutoff. That's all I cared about.
Yep.
The
Hmm.
bike, if you do well enough on the bike, you can walk the run. And that's it. So because the way they always do the timing, it's like you have from the start of the swim, you have like in an iron and a half iron. From the start of the swim, you have an hour and 10 minutes to finish the swim,
Mm-hmm.
which is 1.2 miles.
Yep.
And then from the start of the swim, you have 5.5 hours to finish the bike.
Gotcha.
And
Mm-hmm.
then from the start of the swim, you have 8.5 hours to finish the run. So everything's from based off the start of the swim. So if you finish the bike and cut an hour off the bike, that time's added, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
So
So then you have a little bit of a buffer so you can walk a little in the run.
yeah, so everything's based off of like start of the swim, and that's the one thing I liked. I'm like, okay, so if I cut an hour off the bike, that's an hour extra I have
Yep.
on the run. So
Mhm.
so that's kind of the thing there. So my goal is I want to get under 8 hours. My real goal is 7 hours, but I don't want to say that out loud too much.
Okay. We'll pretend that didn't just get
Yeah.
said. Well, and it's so funny, right? Like even talking about this, like, and I know some people are going to be listening to this and not, right, not watching it. Like your face is lighting up, right? Like you're
Oh yeah.
smiling, which is making me smile. Like your eyes are sparkling, like you're excited about it, right? And then I'm feeling that excitement
Mhm.
because I can see you. And that's the beautiful piece of this stuff. Like sometimes you don't even have to be doing the activity, right? It's talking about this is my goal, right? This is
Mhm.
what I'm working towards. And that can change how we're feeling, right? That can change our mood. It can change our mindset. It can shift our motivation. So you're not even out there exercising right now, but like I could see like your face is lighting up, like, okay, I could use resistance bands to practice the swimming while I'm in the hotel. This will
Yep.
work. And you're getting excited about it. And
Yep.
I
It'll
think
give me the
that,
muscles and moving
yeah.
and yeah.
Mhm. And it's just, we when we talk about this, we get engaged, right? We get excited, our brain starts changing a little bit, we start getting a little more motivated. It's like the I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. It's when we're sitting and not doing anything, we say, "Oh, I can't do that." Right? That's not
Yep.
going to happen. But when we keep that I think I can going, and then we start doing it, it snowballs in that really healthy way to get us a little more motivated. I mean, my first Spartan, I've said this before, it took me over 3 hours to do a sprint. And I think I got over one of the short walls. I attempted several obstacles. I attempted to do the burpees. I could only get a couple of burpees in because I was really at 5'2", 225 pounds is a lot on a tiny
Mhm.
frame.
It
Um,
is.
but I did it, right? I did it. I went through it. And, everyone I did, I got stronger. I lost weight. I got more motivated. I started making friends and it just built from there. And, now like when I talk about it, I get like super excited telling people
Yeah.
about it. It's amazing.
It is. And I mean, once you get those friends and then they start holding you accountable and then they
Mhm.
have like, crazy ideas and they're like, hey,
Yeah.
let's try this. It was like, that's one of the things I think that saved me through um, COVID was Boggs. And then a good friend of mine, Brian Case,
Yeah.
we had stupid challenges that we found. We found that
Mhm.
this great thing called battle miles, which was
Yep.
just these stupid challenges. Like go run, a half marathon with, or, 30 pounds in a backpack. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
You know,
Yep. Just encouraging each
go.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite one, and I did it twice, and I want to go back to Washington, do this with my friend Brian again one more time at least. It was called the Death Race, and we're not supposed to say what the Death Race was, but who cares? Everyone knows what it is. It's 30 miles, and you stop every mile and do 10 push-ups, 10 burpees, and 10 squats
hmm
for 30 miles.
hmm
And we're like, okay, let's go for it. And we did it. And we did it the
Yeah.
first time. Brian wasn't feeling well and he got sick and he was just coming off bronchitis. And he's like, I can't. And I'm like, is it okay if I keep going?
hmm
Because I'm already at 20 and I want to get the last 10 because we were doing 10-mile
Yep.
loops.
hmm
And he's like, yeah. So, I told him like, text me when you get home, go for it. I'm going to go for this last one. I'm going to call my wife, have her come pick me up. And I
hmm
went for it. And I mean, it was just, it felt so good afterwards.
Yeah.
But it was those stupid things during COVID where we just, hey, let's go do this. Let's go do some work together
Yep.
that keeps you going because it's just that healthiness.
hmm
You get those, like you said, the endorphins, you get all that stuff,
hmm
all the blood flowing and you feel better. And like I said,
Yeah.
for the first time in my adult life, when I went and had blood tests in 2020 after I lost the weight,
Hmm.
and went from 310 to 180.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the doctor's like, "This is the first time I can tell you this, but your blood tests are all good." And
Yep.
I'm
It's
like, "What?"
amazing. Hmm.
Like normally my
Yep.
triglycerides are so high, you're like threatening to throw me on medication, but
Hmm.
he's like, "Nope, they're
Yeah.
fine." I'm like,
Yeah, when I was told that I didn't have to take blood pressure medication anymore, right? I was like,
"Yep,
"Wait, what do you mean? Like, you sure? We gotta wean me off of this. Like, I'm scared, you know?" But yeah, it's amazing. So you can heal yourself physically and emotionally. And it's funny as you're talking about that. Like, we always joke around, like with Oscar Mike, right? Like team bad ideas. It's like,
hmm
hey, I got a bad idea. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. And Luis had just joked around with me the other day, and he was like, friends don't let friends race alone. He's like, we do it together. And that camaraderie, right, can really help people overcome, and especially people who might be like new to OCR or not sure about it. There's always somebody there that's going to lend a hand or lend an
hmm
ear, right? If you're
yep,
alone on the race, there's always someone that's going to check in with you and kind of say like, hey, how you doing? Do you need any support? And hand you a mustard packet or whatever, right? And but there's always that support to really kind of shift where you're at and build that encouragement until we all have that good feelings ourselves, right? Because
hmm
sometimes we start out and we're like, I don't want to do this, like I don't feel good about it. There's always someone there to boost you up and lean on, in just that supportive, connected way.
I've met some of my best friends that way. Like right
Absolutely.
now down here in Houston, the person that pretty much I call her my suffer sister now, because Brian up in Washington was my suffer brother. So my friend Jamie down here is my suffer sister, and we do all the stupid stuff together. We
Yep.
actually met doing the Dallas Ultra in 21.
Hmm.
We were
Wow.
both, I had a whole team that was supposed to be with me, a bunch of people that were supposed to be in it, that like everyone's, you know how it is. Like,
Yeah.
I can't make it. I can't make it. And then the next thing you know, I'm the only one going.
Yep. I've been there before. Yep.
And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm doing my first ultra by myself. Sweet.
Mhm.
Um, and like I think it was like mile 6 or 7. Me and Jamie kept like, hey, do you need help over that? Hey, I'm gonna help push you over. Hey, I'm gonna touch your butt. Is it okay? Cool, whatever. You
Yep.
know, you don't know how. I never thought in my life I'd say that as much as I do. It's like, hey, I'm gonna touch your butt. Is that okay? Okay, cool. You know,
Right.
just want
Very
to make
calm. Every obstacle.
yeah.
Yep.
Before I push you over, I just want to make sure there's nothing bad. It's
Yep.
the Spartan kiss as they call it.
Yep.
But, we kept helping each other over obstacles. And by the end of it, we were best friends. And
Yep.
then I was like, hey, we're thinking about moving to this town called Conroe. And she's like, I lived there. And I'm like, sweet, amazing. So,
That's awesome. Hmm.
and like I said, I've met some of the best people on these that, are just amazing,
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
amazing people to do stuff with.
Yep. Well, and then it's too, it's like, friends become that chosen family for
Hmm
so many of us, right? So it goes beyond just like, hey, what's up? See you at the race, to really these deep, meaningful connections that people are sharing, other challenges in their lives, right? Checking in, I know you guys, have talked to and done work like Sober Spartans, right? Like there's these connections and accountability and support through other challenges. I mean, I have multiple friend slash family groups, right, in OCR, that when stuff is happening in our lives, we reach out to each other, right? And
hmm
it's like it's more than just like a casual friendship. And I think that those of us who are in the community know that, right? We've felt that, we
Oh,
have
yeah.
those relationships. And that's really where the power is it's not just like, oh, I met someone, right, and boosted him over a wall and we became friends and we talked and that's it. It's like these friendships go on. You cannot see
hmm
someone for a year, right, year and a half, and you run into them at a race and it's like, oh my gosh, and it's like just like you're back where you were when you first met them. That connection is still there.
Yeah, which is amazing. I mean, it's just you meet people, they become, like you said, your chosen family. And that's one thing that, I just had a conversation with someone about this recently is one thing I figured out since I moved to Texas, and I know any of my blood family that's listening to this, sorry, but your chosen family starts to become more important
Mm-hmm.
because you chose them for a reason. You
Mm-hmm.
chose them because they help you. I mean, it's, like most of my friends know, if you need a shoulder to cry on, you don't even
Mm-hmm.
have to tell me why
Yeah.
because
Yep.
I don't care. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean it that way that I don't, I
Hmm.
don't have to know why. If you want me to know why, you can tell me. But
Hmm.
otherwise, if you just need to put your head on my shoulder and cry, go for it, you know.
Absolutely.
And
Hmm.
that's the kind of friendships that, I really enjoy with it, we've gotten from OCR and from people, and it helps with your mental health.
Yeah.
And you get that chosen family, like my normal family. You don't know how many times I've been asked, why do you do this stuff?
Right. Right.
My mom
Hmm.
told me once, she's like, you're going to die out there one day. I'm like, then I'm going to die with a smile on my face.
Hmm.
At least I'm not
Yeah.
going to die on the couch with my fingers all sticky and everything else from eating candy and, 400 pounds.
Right.
I
And
would
on lots
rather,
of like, medications and
yeah.
not feeling good. Hmm. Yeah.
It's like if I die while I'm running one of these races, awesome.
Hmm. Yep.
Because I died doing what I want to do and I did
Hmm.
it my way,
Right. And being
and
active and
yeah,
engaged and in connection with others and not just waiting, right? Living our lives, right? It's
you
like
know,
there's that quote, everybody dies, but not everybody lives.
hmm
Right. And through movement and connection and doing these races, like we are living our lives
hmm
fully, right? We're in the present moment, we're not stuck in the past, we're not worried
no,
about the future, right? We are in the present moment, connected to ourselves, other people, the world around us. And that in and of itself is really like healing, right? Like we're here and now in the present moment and nothing
yeah.
else matters.
No, and it, like you said, it helps your body so much. One of the big things, like my dad asked me once, he's like, how long do you think you're going to be able to keep doing this with your knees?
Mhm.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, your knees are shot. I'm like, my knees have been shot since I was in high school.
Mhm.
But I will tell you right now, after all of this and doing all these races, my knees feel better now than they
Yeah.
did 10 years ago
Mhm. Yep.
because they're moving. They're getting work done. The muscles around them are built up. I've done what I need to do physically to make them good rather than sit on so many times people are like, oh, I don't want to do that because it's going to hurt my knee or my back hurts.
Mhm.
Maybe your knee and your back hurts because you need to move them.
Absolutely.
And by moving
Absolutely.
them, they will actually grease themselves up. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a technical word for that, but you know what I mean. They'll grease themselves up. They'll actually loosen up. The muscles will get stronger to hold together and make
Yeah.
it better. And my knees, like I
Mhm.
said, they've been shot since high school. And I
Yep.
told my dad, I'm like, they feel better. He's like, well, once you get older, it's going to get worse. And I'm like, hey, I got this guy named Monty that I
Mhm.
want you to meet. He's
Yeah.
what, 90?
Mhm. And he's
And
a beast going
still
out.
doing Spartans.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's amazing. He's
Yeah.
amazing to watch. And but still, right? Like how many people would think, right, like I'm too old to do this, right? Or I'm not in good enough shape, I'm too stressed, I'm too scared, right? I don't like heights, I'm afraid of heights. I mean, I remember assisting one of my teammates over the A-frame cargo net,
Mhm.
and they were frozen at the top, right? So they were numb, they were in that fight or flight freeze state, could not move. Now they're doing flips, not only over the A-frame, but over the vertical cargo net. Like I don't even do flips over the vertical cargo net, right? And they're able to do that, but like
Yeah.
that fear was there. And it like so their nervous system has been totally reset through that fear from being connected to other people, right? Feeling safe, getting that encouragement, developing that self-confidence little by little. And when we can do that stuff on the course, we can start doing it in real life, right? Like we can
hmm
handle these other things. So it's not just like, oh, our physical body, right? It's like that piece with that mental health. Like if we can handle a stressor or a fear on the course, we're gonna develop and use those skills in real life. It
Oh yeah.
translates.
Oh, it does big time. And it also translates into, you know, building that trust.
Hmm.
There's so many people I've seen that have been through, domestic violence, stuff like that, where they've lost that trust in humanity and in people
Hmm.
that I've been out on course with enough times that you see all of a sudden they start trusting again
Hmm.
in people. And it's amazing to see. I have
Hmm.
one friend who was pretty physically had a lot of issues because of DV, and I did a lot of races with her. And one, you have to be very patient.
Yep.
The
Mhm.
one thing I figured out really quickly, don't like push, don't like,
Mhm.
what do you need from me? How can I help you? A lot
Mhm.
of those kind of words, and do what you need to do. And one of the big ones was Bender, like
Mhm.
terrified of Bender. And I'm
Yep.
like, what do you need? She's like, just make sure I don't fall. So I can remember for the first probably 10 times we did Bender,
Mhm.
I was behind her. I
Yep.
would climb up ahead and then she'd
Mhm.
come up and then I would immediately swing in behind her and hold so,
Yep.
she's between me and the bars and I'm holding her and myself up and get
Yep.
her over. And then eventually she started doing it. She didn't need me. I was just next to her.
Yep. Right.
And then eventually she was doing it by herself. And it's so amazing to watch that, where
Yep.
you see those people that fear just slowly, but a lot of times the people get too pushy and you just gotta be patient. Like let them
Right.
do it in their time.
Mhm. Yep. And in giving that agency, right? That's one of the things I'm working with trauma is agency, right? And self-sufficiency. Like you have the power to say yes or no. You have the power to say, I need this support, that support doesn't work. Yes, I want a boost. No, don't touch me, right? And having people listen and connect with you and do that, right? Like follow your lead. And it's funny that you brought that up because that's one of the biggest things in the book that I'm working on is that piece of like learning how to trust again, right? If you don't feel safe, you're not going to connect to someone. And through OCR, right? It's like you have this physical obstacle that you need support. We need support getting over some obstacles. Like in Tough Mudder,
Hmm.
there's several obstacles you cannot do alone, right?
Yeah.
And that, right, feeling that trust begin with something like that can start translating into other relationships and other supports, trust in yourself, right? Like we often lose trust in ourselves when we've been through really challenging or adverse events, right? We start to doubt ourselves. So, all of this and just that example of Bender is an example of both, right? Like she was able to trust you, trust the obstacle, and then trust herself, right? Those three very that trust the environment, trust other people, and now I have trust in myself. And then all of that builds self-confidence and strength and goes back to right like the endorphins and our neurochemicals, right? Boosting up dopamine, serotonin, that like, I kicked butt, like I can do this, I'm strong. And that just, changes people's lives.
Yeah. And you never know what little interaction,
Hmm.
how much that might mean to somebody. One, for example, for me, I did Ragnar this last year, and we had to last minute bring on another person. And we brought in someone that I've met. We've done races together. I knew her well. She lost a lot of weight, and I was so proud of her. It was so amazing. And we're sitting in the race, and we made some comment. She's like, "This is your fault." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "You're the one that convinced me to do a Spartan. Like all those years ago when I was street team at some event. I remember talking to her and everything else, and I remember she wanted a race, but she's like, no, I'd already signed up for a race before you. Like, I
Hmm.
want the race because you talked me into it.
Mm.
She's like, and then I did a race, and then all of a sudden, she lost all this weight, and she's running, I think she ran like 12 marathons in a year
Yep. Wow.
and did all this stuff. And I mean, now for work, instead of driving, she rides her bike to and
Hmm.
from work every day. And it's like this
Amazing.
insane hill and does all this crazy stuff. And she's like, this is all your fault. You started this. And I'm like, it was a small interaction that apparently, not to sound, it meant a lot more to her and was just
Hmm.
a
Yep.
normal interaction. So you never know what thing you're going to say,
Right.
how that, ripple effect
Hmm.
could affect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's
And it's
always
like,
be nice.
yeah, and it's like, right, planting that seed, but like the person has to make it grow, right? Like we can plant
Hmm.
seeds, we can give ideas, we can encourage someone, but we can't make anyone take it to the next level, right?
Yeah.
Like that has to come from you're like somewhere within yourself, and we could provide support and friendship and do it in community, but it like changes the way that we do things for ourselves. Like that, like her
Hmm.
mindset was changed about this from that interaction to now be, like you said, losing weight, riding her bike, doing more and more races. And
Yeah.
those little seeds and interactions that are planted are so important. Just hope. right? It's giving hope, like, hey, maybe I can do this. Well, if I did this, maybe I could do the next thing. And if I did that, I could do the next thing. And now I have a couple of friends and we're going to do this big crazy thing together. And it just, keeps boosting up.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah, all of this, I think that, I know that, I laugh when I say it, but when I'm speaking to like colleagues that are still on the mental health side of things and they ask me what I do for self-care and my mental wellness, and I say like I jump over fire and crawl under barbed wire and get really dirty. Like that's what I do for my self-care. That's
Yeah,
my,
which is
mental health work. Hmm.
which is awesome.
Yep.
You know, we all do our own little thing, and we have our own crazy things that we do. But hey, whatever works.
Hmm.
What is there anything you'd want to say to listeners before we get out of here?
No, I think just, really thinking about how this, right? It's not just fun, right? It's not just a hobby, how it really is changing your life. And I think everyone that I've ever met has some story about how, whether it's obstacle course racing, endurance sports, ultras, marathons, triathlons, everybody has a story about how this has impacted their life, right? And shifted their
Mhm.
life for the better, and just holding on to that really is true. It's not just like, oh, my life has changed from this. Like it really is so powerful for so many people, and yeah, to keep going with it.
Oh, yeah, which is amazing. It's always great talking to you. One thing I would say to everyone, Bill and Ted said it the best: be excellent to each other.
Mhm. Yep, absolutely.
That's always been one of my favorite sayings. Be excellent to each other. It's like, hey,
Yeah, it's a good one.
simple but
Hmm.
simple but meaningful. So,
Absolutely.
all right, Jen. Well, thank you. It's been amazing as always.
Hmm.
So,
Thank you.
and we will definitely do this again. We're gonna have
Sounds
to
good.
make this a normal thing, so we can
Yep.
talk more and get people on the mental health is a huge push for
Yep.
more heart than scars is a huge push for me. Um,
Absolutely.
so I
Hmm.
would definitely love to do this more often.
Yeah. And, too, I guess one last piece would be if any, of the listeners for BeastNet have like questions or thoughts that want to be discussed around like mental health and exercise and OCR or anything like that, that might be something we can talk about too. Like just if there's questions or thoughts that people might have. So,
Yeah,
that would be kind of cool too.
yeah. If anyone does have that questions, thoughts, something you want us to talk about, email me, message me, whatever, or blogs, and
Mhm.
we'll get it set up. And the next time we have Jen on, we'll do the Q&A. So,
Yeah. Sounds
all right,
good.
sounds
Okay.
great.
Thanks. Talk
All right,
soon.